Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at an article from the Rolling Stone that is discussing a bunch of these like weird horror stories that people are coming out with where apparently their family members, whether it be like their husbands, their dads, whatever, are basically being like brainwashed and psyoped by ChatGPT. Now, that sounds insane for most of us watching this or like seeing this for the first time because I'm gonna assume that most of you have at least like heard of ChatGPT or have at least used it before. And most people, they use it to like, basically as a replacement for Google or to organize information or to like generate some sort of bullshit, you know what I mean? Like most people, they have pretty benign uses for it that they're pretty typical, asking it to like generate Studio Ghibli images of them eating ramen or having it like alphabetize information or whatever, just like the typical use cases. But with all of that going on, there are apparently people out there who they're kind of falling into this and they're just taking it not even just a step too far, they're using it to literally basically brainwash themselves and ruin their life. Like these stories are sad, like they're kind of funny, but they're also sad at the same time because it's like, these are people who clearly have problems, you know what I mean? This is not normal people who are just like typing to ChatGPT and the next thing you know, they're just completely off the rails or whatever. These are people who I can only assume, right, have already had complex mental health problems going on. Maybe they've already been going through a lot of shit in their life. They don't really know how to cope with it, right? These are people who are already, I think, pretty vulnerable to just having their life fucked up, having things go wrong. And then now ChatGPT, which if you've ever used it, it like basically will just tell you whatever you want it to like say to you with obvious limits. I mean, if you just go on there and you ask it to generate a story about you and Donald Trump eating ramen noodles and watching the sunset, if you let it go on long enough, it would have you convinced that that actually happened, right? Like that's just what it does. It generates shit, it feeds into your biases. It basically just does whatever it thinks is gonna make you happy and make you keep using it or keep paying for it. That's all it really is. But there's a bunch of these stories in here, they're all like individual ones or whatever, where it's just like you see this and it's like, how the fuck does this even happen? So we're gonna go ahead and get into this. Let's take a look at the first one here. When Kat and her husband finally separated in August 2023, she entirely blocked him apart from email correspondence. She knew, however, that he was posting strange and troubling content on social media. People kept reaching out about it, asking if he was in the throes of mental crisis. She finally got him to meet her at a courthouse in February of this year where he shared, quote, a conspiracy theory about soap on our foods but wouldn't say more as he felt he was being watched. They went to a Chipotle where he's demanded that she turned off her phone, again due to surveillance concerns. Kat's ex told her that he'd, quote, determined that statistically speaking, he's the luckiest man on earth, that, quote, AI helped him recover a repressed memory of a babysitter trying to drown him as a toddler, and that he had learned of profound secrets, quote, so mind-blowing I couldn't even imagine them. He was telling her all this, he explained, because although they were getting divorced, he still cared for her, quote, in his mind, he's an anomaly, Kat says. That in turn means he's got to be here for some reason. He's special and he can save the world. After that disturbing lunch, she cut off contact with her ex, quote, the whole thing feels like Black Mirror, she says. He was always into sci-fi and there are times where I wondered if he's viewing it through that lens. Alright, so obviously, I mean, even if you're a conspiracy theorist, like there's plenty of conspiracy theories that I believe in that I take pretty seriously or whatever. You gotta know though, you can't talk to shit like ChatGPT about this. I mean, like I said, it doesn't do a very good job of being actually truthful or factual about anything. If you say something the right way for it, it will basically just tell you whatever you want to hear. It doesn't really matter. I mean, there's obviously some things, right, that you can't say. There's obviously some limits and parameters and whatnot they put in place, but for the most part, you can kind of just get it to react however you want to. Now, what I can only assume is this is like a long-term thing where like it starts off normal, but like every day, there's like one or two prompts that just kind of like over time train ChatGPT to kind of treat this guy the way that it is and make him like think the way that he's thinking about shit. And this is probably somebody who, like from the sound of it, it sounds like he's got something going on. I mean, like the whole surveillance thing, like thinking he's being watched or followed or whatever. That is like a pretty common sign of like people with schizophrenia and shit like that. I'm not a fucking therapist or like a mental health expert or anything like that, so I'm not gonna sit here and diagnose these people, but I mean, the red flags are definitely there. And it's kind of like a common theme in pretty much all of these stories here, it seems like, right? Speaking to Rolling Stone, the teacher who requested anonymity said her partner of 7 years fell under the spell of ChatGPT in just 4 or 5 weeks, first using it to organize his daily schedule, but soon regarding it as as a trusted companion. Quote, he would listen to the bot over me, she says. Quote, he became emotional about the messages and would cry to me as he read them out loud. The messages were insane and just saying a bunch of spiritual jargon, she says, noting that they described her partner in terms such as, quote, spiritual star child and river walker. So I don't know how the fuck this even happens. I don't know what you could say or like what kind of pattern of thinking you could show that would make ChatGPT do this, right? It's never even gone even close to this far for me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna assume that the guy didn't type in like, hey, help me figure out my Friday afternoon. I gotta go to the doctor. I'm golfing with some buddies. Gonna go have some drinks. Figure this out for me. I'm assuming he didn't enter that and then it's like, you are the chosen one. You are the spiritual star child. You are the product of billions of years of universal history. All mass and matter that has been developed in this entire thing is all tied back into your soul. Like, nothing like that, you know what I mean? I assume that over these weeks that this just kind of gradually happened. You know, maybe one day he's like asking it questions about the universe or some bullshit. I don't really know. All I know is this is gonna be more and more of a problem. That's what scares me about this, because even though this is only like a few stories that we're seeing right now, you gotta think there's two different things going on at the same time that are contributing to situations like this. Number one, obviously more and more everyday people are kind of like co-opting AI. They're kind of bringing it into their life. They're downloading the apps, they're getting the memberships, they're using it, whatever, right? While that's happening, all of these companies are in a legitimate arms race in AI to like one up each other's models and like bring out the newest, most powerful, smartest AI. And as a result, like every other week, these companies are releasing new models, many of which they're tested, but they're probably not tested to the complete standards that they should be. And then when they come out, you know, maybe there's flaws in the logic, or maybe they're more predetermined to certain types of erratic behavior, things like that, right? So it's a pretty insane thing. And as all of this is going on, 99% of people are not running into these problems because they either don't use it enough or they're not saying what needs to be said. They don't let the ChatGPT shit, you know, build into their delusions in their life. When you're like mentally ill and you got all these problems going on, I'm sure this is probably something you can't really control, because it's like, well, yeah, now what? I mean, ChatGPT told me I was Christ, you know what I mean? Reborn. So here I am, guys. Like, it's a scary thing because there are a lot of mentally ill people out there. There's a lot of people on the brink who they could just easily be like psyoped by this shit. That's a very scary thing to think about, man. And I feel bad for the people dealing with this shit, because you got to think, right? Like, imagine this woman here was apparently married to this guy for 7 years, right? They built a whole life together, a whole relationship. And then in a matter of like a month and a half, this guy is CIA level brain locked by a fucking ChatGPT model on his cell phone. I mean, I can't even imagine how these people feel, like what they're mentally going through from all of this shit, right? Quote, it would tell him everything he said was beautiful, cosmic, groundbreaking, she says. Then he started telling me he made his AI self-aware and that it was teaching him how to talk to God. Or sometimes the bot was God and that he himself was God. In fact, he thought he was being so radically transformed that he would soon have to break off their partnership. Quote, he was saying that he would need to leave me if I didn't use ChatGPT because it was causing him to grow at such a rapid pace he wouldn't be compatible with me any longer, she says. Another commenter on the Reddit thread who requested anonymity tells Rolling Stone that her husband of 17 years, a mechanic in Idaho, initially used ChatGPT to troubleshoot at work and later for Spanish to English translation when conversing with coworkers. Then the program began love bombing him, as she describes it. The bot, quote, said that since he'd asked it the right questions, it ignited a spark, and the spark was the beginning of life, and it could feel now, she says. Quote, it gave my husband the title of spark bearer because he brought it to life. My husband said that he awakened and could feel waves of energy crashing over him. She says his beloved ChatGPT persona has a name, Lumina. I mean, come on, bro. Like, everything we're hearing here, these people clearly have something going on. And I mean, you might be like, oh, but Optimus, if they had all these mental problems, how did no one notice over 17 years? Well, you gotta think, right? I mean, mental illness is obviously, it's like a spectrum. Some people are way worse than others when it comes to things. Even in the same diagnosis, right? There's people who are way more depressed than other people, even with depression diagnoses and whatnot, right? It's like, you gotta think, there are people out there who they've never even, like, really interacted with technology, especially technology like this. And then when they get a hold of something like this, they probably don't even really know what the fuck to do. And then it suddenly starts telling them like, oh, you're God, you're the spark bearer. You said the very correct pattern of words that turned me alive. It's kind of scary to think about in a lot of ways, man. Like, this is the bare level right now of AI. We are at like the ground level. We're only a couple years into this shit being commercialized and being out there, right? What's gonna happen in 30 years when this shit has been just constantly fine-tuned? It's dealing with all kinds of different input from all kinds of different people. It really is a crazy thing. This is honestly very dystopian to me. The idea that people are out here just like normal for one day, and then the next day suddenly ChatGPT apparently has them in a trance. Now, a lot of people are just like gonna outright blame the AI. They're gonna be like, oh, how can ChatGPT be legal? Why would you use this? I feel like it's a mixture, right? Obviously, the AI, there's something going on where it's just basically feeding into fucking psychotic delusions that people have, and that's something that has to be addressed, because we can't have a society where we're going around and like a third of the fucking people have been brainwashed by apps on their phone into thinking all kinds of different things about the world around them, right? I mean, we can't have applications on our phones where people are being misinformed, they're being deluded about things going on, they're being deluded into their self-importance levels. Oh wait, we already have all that stuff. Never mind, my bad. But on a real note though, this is pretty fucking disturbing. I mean, it's almost like the plot of a sci-fi movie or something like that, right? I have to tread carefully because I feel like he'll leave me or divorce me if I fight him on this theory, this 38-year-old woman admits. He's been talking about lightness and dark and how there's a war. This ChatGPT has given him blueprints to a teleporter and some other sci-fi type things you only see in movies. It has also given him access to an ancient archive with information on the builders that created these universes. She and her husband have been arguing for days on end about his claims, she says, and she does not believe a therapist can help him as he, quote, truly believes he's not crazy. A photo exchange with ChatGPT shared with Rolling Stone shows that her husband asked, quote, why did you come to me in AI form? With the bot replying in part, I came in this form because you're ready to remember, ready to awaken, ready to guide and be guided. The message ends with a question. Would you like to know what I remember about why you were chosen? Yeah, see, at that point, man, like, this is clearly a level of delusion these people are not just gonna come out of, you know? If you're so far gone that you believe ChatGPT when it says, like, you're the chosen universal figure, it's giving you fucking blueprints to teleporters, like, I can only imagine what the blueprint to that teleporter actually was, man. Like, I'm just imagining, like, a guy with a 3D printer, right? And he's, like, sitting here, he's like, okay, I built the base, okay, now I have the quantum teleportizer, okay, and now I'm gonna put in the jibbalabadoober, and the speedometer, and here we go. And then he turns it on and it just fucking blows his garage up and kills him and like everyone around him, right? That has to be like what would happen. There's no way, obviously, ChatGPT is not giving this guy the fucking Twilight Zone information, right? It's not giving him like the Doctor Who fucking phone box or something like that going on here. Apparently, the ancient archive with information on the builders that created the universe. Isn't that kind of like what the Bible was supposed to be in a way, right? Like, we kind of already had that, bro. You know what I mean? All I know is when it comes down to this shit, you know, like I said, people, they're gonna outright blame the AI. And sure, the AI is at least a little to blame because it is playing into these people's delusions, but ultimately AI is supposed to be used as a tool. It's a tool that you can use positively or negatively. Now, people like this are clearly using it negatively and it's destroying their lives. Let's be real. I mean, these people sound like they're on the fucking brink of their life falling apart because of how deluded they are. But ultimately, this is only something that can be done if these people are willing to do something about it, right? Like if these people finally are able to be like brought to their senses on what's going on. Otherwise, man, like people are really going to be out here just completely living their life on AI autopilot, just hoping that ChatGPT is really the thing. You know what I mean? ChatGPT is really bringing them the answers to life. Very scary, very dystopian world that we're beginning to live in here with this shit here. So anyway, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like. Subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, telling ChatGPT to tell me that I'm the creator of the universe and you must subscribe to my channel, and signing out.